I just want to say I'm actually a fan of Trump, and I think there's a lot of stuff in the media which are lies.
All right, so in this video, we're going to see 3 levels of political meltdown back to back. First, you'll see a Trump/Brexit voter who calls himself the least woke bloke, but doesn't know what he's talking about. Secondly, you'll see a Trump fan who gets trapped into literally defending Hitler. And finally, you'll see a Trump fan who panics, invents a fake president from 1880 and runs away. If you want to see more videos like this, show your support by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let's watch this together, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
With the girls.
The emotion around this, and name calling, and Trump's this, Trump's that, Trump's the other. I don't know why everybody's so surprised. When he was, going for election, he said he was going to do this. Everybody knew he was going to do it.
Everybody kept telling us to ignore what he said and concentrate on what he did. You remember?
I do, but again, we've got short memories. When he was, in his first term, he said he would do a number of things, and he did.
Well, he did. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine on day one. He said the stock market would go up and he'd make everyone richer. You now have the Swiss investment bank UBS, widely regarded as a leader in this field, predicting an inevitable recession with growth GDP.
We'll see. We'll see in time, but, this happened 2 days ago. My point's very simple. He said he was going to do this. He's done it. The emotion and the response is quite ridiculous, I think, in terms of, he will want deals. He wants to make a deal with people. This is his way of doing it. No, you don't need to like it. None of us need to like it. But name calling and saying he's this, that, and the other, I just don't think it takes anybody anywhere.
You've been a bit woke, Paul. A little bit of name calling, a little bit of mischief, a little bit of fun. It keeps us all honest.
I'm the least woke.
Keeps the conversation fresh.
Least woke bloke in the world.
Yeah, I thought you might be.
In the world.
So, what should Starmer do in this context then?
Well, I think the first thing is, it's 10%. I think that was probably better than the UK thought it was going to be. I think...
no, it's exactly the same as every other country in the same situation as us.
Yeah, except Europe.
No, they're not in the same situation as us. They have a different trade balance, a different balance of trade. So any country with a comparable balance of trade to us gets the 10%. There's no special treatment there whatsoever.
Okay, so that's where we are. Trump is looking after America. It's his country. It's not our country.
You just said it's going to go into recession. Its own stock market. They've lost $2 trillion. How is that looking after America? No, I will, but you're going to have to address the question of how is a $2 trillion loss overnight looking after America?
Well, he's talking 1 day, 2 days. Let's see what it's like in 3 months. Who knows? I don't know, and nor do you. And nor does anybody else.
You just said he's looking after America, and I've just said he's just lost trillions of dollars. So in the context, so in the context of now, he's hitting America really, really hard. But at some unspecified point in the future, things might go really well. Did you vote for Brexit?
Pardon?
Did you vote for Brexit?
I did.
Yeah. And this was the same argument we heard then.
Well, no, but Starmer is the leader of Britain. Hang on, Starmer's the leader of Britain. Because we are on our own, he can decide what the government decides to do in response to these tariffs. Now, he can retaliate. That's up to him. He's our leader. Yeah, he needs to look after Britain. Yeah, that's his country, and the Swiss need to look after the Swiss, etc., etc. And it all goes around like that.
Yes,
because that's what Trump's doing.
So, what do you think looking after Britain would look like? And you can't keep saying that Trump is looking after America because he's just tanked trillions of dollars from the American economy. They've laid off car workers in America temporarily as a direct result of the impacts his tariffs will have upon their overseas operations. But you knew that.
Well, I know that, but I think, Rome isn't built in 2 days, and nor's the response. We're talking about 2 days.
But this is Brexit again.
Yeah, but you're talking 2 days.
But I'm talking $2 trillion.
You know the market's probably better than I do.
When's the last time $2 trillion were lost overnight? US stocks plunged.
I have no idea.
But doesn't it matter, though, to your optimism, especially after your vote for Brexit went so badly? Doesn't this idea of sticking all your eggs in things are going to be great at some unspecified point in the future, haven't you kind of got bored of that yet?
I just think people are so surprised by something he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
And he's done it. Now, the response will be interesting. I think, he prides himself, if people want to call him a narcissist, he prides himself on being the art of the deal. What he wants to do is to negotiate.
Well, he didn't write that book.
Well, no, I know. You're right.
Do you know what happened the last time they brought in tariffs like this?
Oh, God, no, I haven't got a clue.
But doesn't it matter, Paul?
No, because I think that...
That's why I find conversations like this fascinating. You voted for Brexit. You're making all the same arguments about Brexit. Brexit was an undiluted catastrophe, but this one will go really well.
Well, I'm not sure it's a catastrophe, was it?
What's your favourite bit?
Pardon me?
What's your favourite bit?
My favourite bit is, well, you've probably got a point, actually. It's about controlling entry and exit from the country.
How's that worked out for you?
That's probably, you have a point.
Yeah, and we could, of course, have controlled it a lot more robustly before you voted for it. So the thing you voted for has been a catastrophe. The reason why you voted for it has got immeasurably worse, but you believed things would be brilliant at some unspecified point in the future, and here you are making exactly the same arguments about Donald Trump.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, I think, no, hang on.
I have hung on.
It's about the people. It's about the people, who are leading, this country. Yeah, and it should be very easy for this country to control its borders. They don't, because the government before and this government are useless.
See, I have a theory that everybody who likes Trump and Brexit is obsessed with immigration. And here you are talking about $2 trillion losses that America has taken overnight, saying, hey, wait and see, it might all turn out to be brilliant. But what you really, really care about is immigration.
No, I don't. I think I care about it.
Why'd you bring it up then?
Well, you brought it up. I didn't.
No, I didn't. I asked what your favourite bit of Brexit. I asked what your favourite bit of Brexit was. I asked what your favourite bit of Brexit was.
I gave you an example. You're right. Yeah, but no.
So, what is your actual favourite bit of all the things that have happened? Yeah, and Brexit has played out, which is why the parallel is so interesting. So, of all the things that have happened, what's your favourite bit?
Of Brexit?
Yeah.
I think just controlling your own laws.
Which ones do we control now that we didn't control before?
There's a lot now that we're not impacted by the EU that we were. I didn't like being dictated to by Brussels.
On what? On what?
Well, whatever the silly laws came out of there.
Go on, then, give me one. Give me one.
Oh, come on, there were loads.
I can't think of one, but you can, because you know that there are loads. Go on, give me one.
Don't be silly.
Give me one law.
Out of Brussels, there were loads out of
Brussels. Give me one. Why is that funny? Lots. You voted for it. There are lots, and you can't name one.
Well, Brussels, we didn't have control of our own laws.
For example?
I can't think of an example.
Well, I'll wait.
Pardon me?
I'll wait.
You'll have a long way. I can't think of an example.
No, but you're bound to be able to, because there's loads. Paul just told me. So I'll wait.
You're very good, but no.
No, I'm not. I just care about facts.
Anyway, we're not talking about Brexit.
No, I am. I'm waiting now.
You're waiting. The economy, let's wait and see.
Tell me the thing that's gone really well. You said the law that you're pleased about.
My point is, let's wait and see. I think many countries...
I'm waiting to see what law you're going to tell me about.
Hang on. Well, we'll negotiate, and Starmer can negotiate for Britain.
Don't change the subject.
For Europe.
Don't change the subject. Paul.
He can negotiate.
Paul, time for one of your wry chuckles, I think, Paul, isn't it now? Time for a wry chuckle? I'm still waiting for the law, of which there are loads.
Well, one of the great benefits is that now we're in this situation.
What about bendy bananas?
Now we're in this situation.
3-pin plugs?
Can negotiate for Britain.
Wrapping your fish and chips in newspaper. What's the law you're happiest that you don't have to obey anymore?
In this situation, one of the greatest benefits is that Starmer can
just say there aren't any, Paul, because everybody listening knows.
Well, this is a great one, isn't it?
Go on. What's your law? Example. What's the law?
Well, no, hang on.
No, I'm not. I've hung on for long enough. What's the law you no longer have to obey that justifies your Brexit vote in 2016?
Well, I'll turn it around so answer the question.
No, you can't. So you have to ask. No, you can't. Just answer the question.
Europe are not going to negotiate for us. We're going to negotiate for ourselves. That's the difference.
It's 10:45.
First of all, before I make my point, I want to say I'm not a fan of Trump.
Okay.
I want to make that clear before I start.
You don't have to, but I understand why you want to.
Okay. So you're asking why people aren't making up a big fuss about him going back in the White House?
Well, why they don't care?
They don't care, my mate. I'll tell you, because they've got their own problems. Now you're making some very strong points morally, and I agree with you actually. But the point is, right now, he's the best man for the job. I know, I'm not saying he's a good person, I'm not saying he's got a good character or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but practically he'll speak to Putin, hopefully sort this business out in Ukraine. And as you say, people are worried about food, they are worried about the price of petrol, they are worried about the bill.
But why? I mean, let's take Putin into it then. You're talking about people who admire the attributes that Putin has. Yeah, this is what I mean about Western values, sacred and inviolate, I thought, values. And I appreciate, I'm happy to sound naive. I think it's important to sound naive sometimes. We're not supposed to like dictators. I'm not talking about the next election. The election is just one. I'm talking about the knowledge that he tried to steal the last one by encouraging Americans to kill Americans.
Yep.
How can you not care enough about that? I don't care how invested you are in the war in Ukraine. The man that seeks to lead the country encouraged Americans to kill Americans so that he could steal an election.
Right. And I'm not saying at any point he's a good person.
No, I know you're not.
The point is, right, I know you're clever, right, and I like your show, but James, you're not a politician. You're very good on the radio, my old mate. And, you know,
this doesn't mean anything. I'll ask you the question again. Why do people not care about a man who encouraged Americans to kill Americans trying to steal an election from the Americans?
Because he's the best man for the job.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
It does, though. It does to them. It might not to you, and I know you're educated and clever. It might not to you.
Keep saying this stuff, because, I mean, it might not to you either, because you've said yourself that you're not a fan of Donald Trump. So you're speculating about a constituency of people that includes some of the richest people in America.
Yeah, so
because he appeals to the poor. You haven't answered my question. He's the best man for the job. Was Hitler the best man for the job?
Well, no, but he was the only man for the job. I mean,
Hitler was the best man for the job, mate. That's what people thought in 1930s Germany.
And they were wrong. But I'm not saying that. And they were wrong, weren't they? And people are probably very. But the problem is, right now, you've got Biden, who, God bless him, isn't competent, is he?
Biden's wasn't even in the election battle. So you are saying the same thing that people would have said in 1930s Germany. You're just not quite ready to admit it yet.
No, you can't compare him to Hitler.
Of course I can. He tried to get Americans to kill Americans to steal an election from Americans. He mounted a violent assault on democracy itself. Who would you compare him to?
Well, I couldn't compare him to Hitler because you've gone too far. Because Hitler was one of the most evil people who's ever lived. He killed, what was it, 6 million Jews?
No, in the 1930s.
With 1939, when the Second World War started.
Compare him to 1936 Hitler. Compare him to 1935. I mean, what is it? You steal elections and you encourage Americans to kill Americans so that you can stay in power after you've been voted out. But he's the best man. He's the best man for the job. In a way, I don't think you're wrong. I'm just struck that you're reluctant to follow your own logic all the way to all the other hideous dictators in the recent past, or even in the distant past, who were considered to be the best man for the job. Did any of them ever turn out to be, Lewis? Can you think of any violent dictators who did turn out to be good for the country that they ran?
Well, no, but you haven't got. The thing is,
okay. No, it's all right. At least you're honest. But everyone thought they were the best men for the job as well. I don't know where the penny drops. I don't know where the scales fall from the eyes.
I just want to say I'm actually a fan of Trump, and I think there's a lot of stuff in the media which are lies.
Go on.
I know yourself. You're obviously anti-Trump.
Now go on. What are the lies that you're unhappy about?
Well, no, I just think you even said this morning, you said it's okay for him, what is it, the quote you used, it's okay to be racist again?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you draw that conclusion?
He accused Barack Obama of not having been born in America and lying about his birth certificate.
So how's that racist?
Birtherism is racist because Barack Obama is well, you can't. I mean, you can talk over me if you want, Stephen. But okay, no, you crack on.
There have been previous presidents that have actually been white that have also not been accused of being born in America. So was that also racist?
No, of course it wouldn't be racist. Who was that, by the way?
I think a president from 1880. It goes back over
No, come on. You're on national radio. You've got your ducks in a row. Tell me about the last time an American president was accused of not being born in America.
I've forgotten the names. But
don't be silly. Don't tease me. Of course you haven't forgotten the name. You wouldn't come on the radio and say something and then immediately fall apart in response to the first question you're asked.
It's not falling apart.
Okay, so let's go back to the lies that have been told about Donald Trump. Which one would you reach for first?
Well, the one that you just said, it's okay for the racist to come out.
Well, we've just demonstrated he's very popular with racists, Stephen. I think we can all agree on that.
Well, he's not popular with racists.
So it wasn't white nationalists that invaded the Capitol last week, then. Steve Bannon, his key advisor. Steve Bannon, his key advisor during the presidential campaign, who's now been pardoned for ripping off Trump supporters. He didn't say you should wear the accusation of racism like a badge of honor.
Well, that's his quote. I mean, if that's what he's saying. But the fact that you can't just say then that everyone that marched on the Capitol is racist.
I didn't. I said they were white nationalists.
Well, you're also portraying that.
So let's go back to the lies, Stephen. Let's go back to the lies that the mainstream media in America has told about Donald Trump.
Well, I've just told you the fact that he's racist.
But we've just proved that he is.
But because he's questioned someone's birth certificate, that makes him racist.
No, because he questioned a black man's birth certificate, knowing that it was absolutely untrue. So that would be called a racist lie, which is encouraged to make people who are uncomfortable with Barack Obama's skin colour believe something that's not true about him, because it then undermines the legitimacy of his presidency. So briefly, because I mean, it's not going great, but I'd like you to stick around for a little bit longer. What is it you liked about him, Stephen?
I think that he come out and spoke a lot of the truth on stuff.
Yeah, what stuff? Stephen's hung up.